So it's been a fantastic day for India. Kamal kiya hai hamare shooters ne. They have got India's first gold medal and they have also set a world record. Over to Sandeep straight away at Hangzhou. Sandeep, three Indian shooters. They have done a terrific job at the Asian Games in the 10-meter air rifle team event. Now, this also happens to be the same event in which the great, the one and only Abhinav Bindra back in 2008 at the Beijing Olympics landed the first individual gold. You've spoken enough with Abhinav Bindra in the past and done a book. So, what are your current thoughts?
I think this was probably coming. अगर आप थोड़ा बहुत देखें कि लास्ट 4 साल में क्या हुआ था, the failure at Tokyo, the failure at Jakarta Asian Games, and I think if you really look at the 33 who come into this particular team to come into Hangzhou for the shooting, only three were part of the last Asian Games. So that itself is a pointer, a reminder that most selection policies across the world. I mean, of course, in India, you have certain federations that do excellent job in selections, and I think shooting probably started to look inward a little bit and thought that, are we going to look at shooters who are going to be selected just because they used to be good in the past, or are you really going to look at shooters जिन्होंने अभी हाल ही में कहीं पर शूट किया हो या डोमेस्टिकली शूट किया हो इंटरनेशनल पे गए हो वर्ल्ड यूनिवर्सिटी गेम्स से निकल के आए हो या जूनियर वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप से सो वो जो पॉलिसी उन्होंने जो थोड़ी बहुत बदल दी कि भाई हम प्रेजेंट फॉर्म को लेके टीम फॉर्म करेंगे एंड आई थिंक दैट प्रोबेबली हैज पेड डिविडेंड्स यू सी सो मेनी जूनियर्स कमिंग थ्रू द whole lot now so just going back to that 33 point a little bit that out of the 33 members who come here Manu Bakar is one of those three who were part of the last 4 years team. So I think that itself is a huge morale booster for most of the juniors that when they look up and look at the team list ना कि भाई मेरा नाम आ गया और मेरा नाम इसलिए है not because मैं किसी को जानता हूँ या मैं किसी प्रोसेस या किसी नेटवर्किंग से आ रहा हूँ लेकिन मैंने लास्ट 1-2 महीने में 6 महीने में साल भर में मैंने अच्छा शूट किया है तो इस करके मैं टीम में हूँ.
There is a question coming in from Anil, and he wants to know that how many medals do you think India will win? So it's always you have to wear the prediction hat. So how many do you think India can land?
I think if you really look at the individuals and all of that, I think if one can cross 4 goals, I think that itself will be a tremendous achievement because you are up against some really, really powerful nations there. Whether it's Korea, whether it's China, these are the countries that actually and the world record जो भी आज टूटा है that was probably I think in the last 3 months at Baku at the World Championships where China set that world record and we have broken it here. But there is a difference between team and there is a difference in individual. And I think the more prestigious, I'm not saying that the team championships are not. I'm just saying कि हाँ हर वक्त एक individual मेडल को ज्यादा प्रेस्टीज देते हैं हम ज्यादा क्रेडिबल मानते हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ की दिस इज अ इंडिविजुअल गोल्ड मेडल तो अगर आप इंडिविजुअल टीम को देखेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि करीबन अगर हम 4 गोल्ड ले लेते हैं एंड आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग ऑफ द सिल्वर्स एंड द ब्रॉन्ज आई एम जस्ट प्योरली टॉकिंग ऑफ गोल्ड बिकॉज दैट इज वेयर योर मेडल टैली कम्स इन आई थिंक इफ यू कैन डू दैट 4 mark I think that will be tremendous.
So you're talking about 4 gold medals across all disciplines?
No, I'm talking of shooting here.
Okay,
But
sure. Okay,
because if
okay.
you really look at athletics, you look at shooting. Shooting has probably got you the most medals, in terms of discipline. After athletics, athletics still is the number one discipline in which India picks up all its medals in terms of a major.
Right. So the world record was basically set. Let me take their names also: Rudransh Patil, then Divyansh Panwar, and Aishwarya Pratap Singh. So they not only won the gold for India, that was India's first gold medal in this event, but they broke the world record in a team event, aggregating a total score of 1893.7 in the qualification round. The earlier world record of 1893.3 was set by the Chinese at Baku in Azerbaijan. So, Sandeep, the very obvious question is that while it is great to set a new world record, but what kind of impact will it have on a much larger stage, which is going to be Paris next year? And what role do nerves have on any individual athlete when they are competing in the biggest event in the globe? Not nothing to take away from the Asian Games, but we all know that the Olympics will be a completely different setup, and how what will be the impact of this world record?
I think there's going to be a large scale impact anyway in terms of, I think number one, I think the first impact should happen back at home in terms of more people coming into shooting. I think these are the events where you actually win a large portion of medals at the Olympic Games. Until your track and field and swimming and all of these are not coming up to that particular level. When I say level, I mean in terms of winning medals. You have Chopra and you have swimmers now coming through, but winning swimming medals adds to your tally. I think that's where shooting plays a large part. And if shooting can somehow convert itself from an Asian championship or an Asian Games level on to an Olympic level, which very few except Bindra have done, I think that impact probably will come around Paris. If it doesn't come across Paris, then maybe at the next Olympic Games. But how do you convert what happens here into a large scale impact is completely up to the NRII. And I think since they have looked at themselves a little more closely, since they are following a very energetic selection policy, I think it should also be followed up by getting more and more ranges, getting more sub juniors and juniors into the sport. And at this particular level, coaching plays a massive part. We all have understood and know how Abhinav used to keep going abroad and eventually landed a gold medal. It comes from coaching, it comes from a huge amount of cost. But I think when you look at sport, when you look at sports impact across the world, the cost probably is not that big a factor for, for whether it is SAI or whether it's central government to keep funding shooting so that your Olympic medals can also increase in the larger play.
Let's do a quick reference to Abhinav Bindra. Now, when Abhinav Bindra won the gold, that was at the 2008 Beijing Olympics in the 10-meter air rifle event, and he also concurrently held the world and Olympic titles. But it is the same Abhinav Bindra who said later that he was in a very dark space post the win, trying to cope with all of that, or the euphoria, the expectations, and everything that piles up. Of course, the big match jitters are also there, and you know about all of that very well, having covered so many Olympics. तो ये young shooters क्या सीख सकते हैं अभिनव बिंद्रा से? आपको क्या लगता है?
I think what they actually have to learn is perseverance and patience. मुझे अभी भी याद है 2000 सिडनी, आई थिंक वो शायद बिंद्रा का पहला ओलंपिक गेम्स था. I think he was what 16, 17 or 15. I don't recall the exact age, but he was that young. And for somebody who started in 2000, then comes to 2004, then 8, and then wins in 8, that actually says a huge amount that you know how he's progressed through the ranks. एंड एट द सेम टाइम आई थिंक हमको ये भी देखना होगा कि हम जितने वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप्स में पार्टिसिपेट करते थे, दिस होल रेगुलर थिंग अबाउट every 2 months you used to see that okay, a bunch of guys have won the world championships, but we could never really collate and understand what are these world championships all about. And I think that decision also probably goes in favor of the juniors and everybody, where NRA probably has also decided कि हम हर वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप में नहीं पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे, which also means more time for introspection, more time to look inwards again, as we were talking. But Bindra is a very classic example of when you reach top, and then what do you do with yourself? I think for a man who probably just led a life so isolated in so many ways in trying to hunt that gold medal down at the Olympic Games. And let's leave the rest of the stuff on the side, whether it's the Asian Games or the Asian Championship or the World Championship. Really, nothing really mattered to him except that gold medal. And I think that example that he set is that you just need to keep knocking on that door and not just knocking just for the heck of it. You need to follow up that entire process. And for people who haven't read his book, I think this is the time to say that you just go ahead and read that book, and you'll probably understand Bindra and quite the reason as to why he is Abhinav Bindra, the Olympic gold medalist.
Exactly. It is a story of perseverance, it is a story of obsession, and it is a story of doggedness, of course, with the athlete's own brilliance.
I think the word that you use right now, obsession, I think that is the perfect word. I think if you're not obsessed, honestly, वो नहीं होता. I mean, you look at anybody across other countries even. I mean, multiple gold medalists, even a Neeraj Chopra who's going to start participating here from the 29. It is that obsession that I have to be at the training camps, I have to constantly go abroad, I have to seek something that even I don't know what I'm seeking for in terms of training. Everybody knows that they have to hit the sweet spot, which is the gold medal. But that training, that whole every day in and out, in and out, in and out of 6 hours, 8 hours of training. Because हम लोगों को क्या दिखता है ना, हमको ये दिखता है नीरज चोपड़ा गोल्ड मेडल जीत गया, 50 करोड़ आ गए, 80 करोड़ आ गए, फैंसी गाड़ी भी आ गई होगी, फैंसी घर भी आ गया होगा, ये बड़ा आसान है। अगर इतना ही आसान होता तो इतने सालों से गोल्ड मेडल क्यों नहीं आ रहा, इतने सालों से बिंद्रा जैसा इंसान या शूटर क्यों नहीं पैदा हुआ? आई थिंक दीज आर द क्वेश्चंस दैट most people or most juniors or most parents actually at the sub junior level need to ask, are you willing to put up with all of that to create a champion in your home? If you are willing to, then sacrifice 6 8 hours a day for virtually 10 years, and then you will create something.
And possibly Neeraj Chopra himself summed it up the best when he said that after he won the gold, wherever he went after that, people said, Neeraj bhai, आपने तो एक ही रात में कमाल कर दिया, ओवरनाइट आप गोल्ड मेडल जीत गए, ओवरनाइट ये हो गया, सब भूल गए कि कितनी मेहनत करी थी उसने, और अभी भी वो लगातार उस ऑब्सेशन के साथ काम करता है. Anyway, we are running out of time, so let's go over to the Indian rowers, and they've also done a pretty good job at the Asian Games. 5 मेडल जीते हैं, जिसमें से 2 सिल्वर है और 3 ब्रॉन्ज है. Sandeep, when it comes to rowing, it is maybe I won't be incorrect in saying that it is not typically a sexy sport visually, but there are comparisons being made to Cambridge and Oxford, where the rowing competition is world famous, and a lot of that hype has come from there. But when we are talking about rowing, there is a lot of feeling here. There is quite a few experts believe that this is a medal winning sport, and India shouldn't miss this bus.
I think you're correct because again we are coming back to the same examples of shooting and rowing. I think these are all places where you can actually put in a lot of effort with less amount of money. When I say money, I don't mean you're not going to pay your rowers or you're not going to see that they should go abroad and compete much. But I'm saying when you look at infra of the other ones where you need a full-fledged tracks, almost 100 crores being spent on creating a stadium. I think we have enough water resources in the country where rows can still go and probably get that exposure. I think one needs to understand how Europe does it. One needs to understand how United Kingdom created so many gold medal winning rowers in their own nation. I think in that sense, rowing probably should be one of our top priorities. It comes from the army. The army invests a lot. The army invests a lot in these guys who have just recently, even here, won all these medals. I think it's a moment where things can change. अगर यहाँ पे अगर साई आके कह देती है कि हाँ भाई ये 4 या ये 6 या ये 7 सेंटर्स है, and then they encourage at least 40 to 50 universities, कि भाई आप इंटर यूनिवर्सिटी, आई हैव नेवर हर्ड ऑफ इंटर यूनिवर्सिटी रोइंग चैंपियनशिप में, और मुझे मालूम भी नहीं है कि whether वैसा कुछ होता भी है कि नहीं. It is a difficult proposition because you still need a little bit of that infra to be able to do it. But even if there is a select amount, like you said, it's not sexy. I think अगर आप यूनिवर्सिटीज में इसको डाल देंगे थोड़ा बहुत, I think ये sexy होने लग जाएगा. And I think this is the right time to probably convert that whole thing about this being probably staid and boring and लोग boat में बैठ के कुछ चला रहे हैं. No, this is where you're going to gain more medals at the not only at the Asian level, at the world level and at the Olympic level, where we actually are hungry for more medals. At least at the Olympic level, we should be winning more. And I think this is a great and classical sport that we need to look at.
Sandeep, one last quick point on rowing, which is that factually the men have done exceedingly well, and but the women have crashed. The ladies, they came last. So is there a gap in their own categories, or do you feel there could be some other factors too? What can the women do to improve their performance?
I think it's also about exposure. I think the men are getting it more because also because of the army backing that comes in. I mean, if you see most of these rows, most of them are probably just from the army, and that is where probably that entire support. There is something where you know that you are being backed by a complete establishment. I think that goes a long way. If the state government or even if the central government backs you and you also understand that feeling कि भाई कुछ भी हो जाए लेकिन मेरे पास बैकिंग है, मैं 8 महीने 1 साल 1.5 साल ये काम कर सकता हूँ क्योंकि मुझसे कोई पूछने वाला नहीं है कि भाई तुम क्यों कर रहे हो, क्योंकि वो चाहते हैं कि मैं ये करूँ और मेडल आए. आई थिंक द मोमेंट यू स्टार्ट डूइंग दैट, I think everything probably takes a 360-degree turn there. 10 साल 15 साल 20 साल पहले बहुत कुछ आइसोलेशन में होता था. शायद अब जो चेंजेस स्पोर्ट में हम देख रहे हैं वो है कि वो आइसोलेशन में नहीं हो रहा. इसके पीछे एक पूरा एस्टैब्लिशमेंट है, कोचेस हैं. there's a whole army of people out to help you get that medal. And I think it also helps. Politically, it helps. Of course, we all know that, and that's a completely different subject. But just looking at sport as sport, I think this is probably a turning point.
Okay, thanks, Sandeep. We'll be back later for much more. And as the day goes on and India's tally keeps increasing, we'll be back chatting on important athletes, their performances, and the sport that they represent and where it can go. See you later.
Thank you.